All right. Well, I'm here to tell you I did not get nearly the amount of shit done on this thing this week that I wanted to. It seems like every time I turned around, somebody was coming over needing machine work done, or needed a hose made, or I had to go stir up a burn pile for a guy. It just one thing after another. So, that being said, I did manage. I got the squeeze pump mounted. Got the jack shaft mounted. I got 2 new bearings coming for it. Those should be here hopefully Monday. They might show up today because UPS has been delivering on Saturday for some reason. I don't know why, but they should be here Monday either way. Got chain tensioners on it. It's not the cleanest job in the world, but with the space I had available to me. If you look in the book, and a guy sent me some pictures. I don't know if you can, I can't remember in the pictures if you can see real good or not. Where you at, Dan? So you can kind of see in the picture, this is on a 16-row 6180. Can you see? Here's it glary. Nope, you can't see. Anyway, it looks like the 6180 actually used a different model squeeze pump, and it mounts at a little different angle, because on the 6180 they just had a strap bracket that like bolted on this face of the toolbar, and the squeeze pump sat like right here. But if you did that with this one, you'd be into the tank. And also, apparently the transmission ends up at a different spot on the 6180. The 12-row, 16-row on the bigger narrow row planters, since this one was never supposed to be a narrow row. Because on the 6180, the jack shaft and everything is actually mounted underneath the squeeze pump, and then the transmission ends up like behind it. Well, we couldn't do that on this one, so I had to make this bracket. I made bolt two 3/8 bolts that hold a chain guard in the transmission, and then these brackets are actually twins to each other than I welded a chain tensioner on this one. And I made a piece of flat stock come down off the back of the toolbar, which puts it at the same distance back as this guy, so these could be the same length, and put this bracket over here, and then that gives me enough room that I can slide this gear over to get all of my transmission combinations, and I can slide this gear back and forth to get all my transmission combinations. The only thing I'd have to do for this one, because of the way I had to make the chain tensioner, and I wish I'd have done it a little different now. Actually, I still could change it. Basically, what I'd have to do is make this bushing longer and put a longer bolt in it. That way, because you got your smaller sprocket here. So what you'd either have to do is I either make this stud and bushing longer so that you could slide this tensioner sprocket back and forth to catch both of these sprockets, or it's just a set screw and you could take that back sprocket off, flip it, and slide it back on. But cross that bridge when we get to it. First, I just want to get the chain made for it, but I can't make the chain until I get the right bearings in it. So that's all in. And then I got my bracket made for my red ball mount, which I painted it. I haven't painted anything here because I ran out of Agco red paint, and I kept forgetting to order new paint, so that hadn't gotten painted. But this I painted white. That way it gives you color contrast. When you mount these, it gives you better color contrast. And then I took a Sharpie and highlighted all the level marks and all the letters on these so that you can actually see. So I'm gonna mount this up real quick, and then I went to this morning and got my tanks, or got my extra tanks. The tanks are junk, unfortunately, but the mounts are good. But I went and got extra tanks and mounts this morning off of a buddy's parts planner. You know, this is, they're junk, but the straps are good and the saddles are good, so I can get those put on, and then we could put another tank, or we can get that tank over on that side. And then once those are on, I can get I got hydraulic hose. Had to run down or to get stuff for Dad yesterday, and I got the spool of hose that we've been waiting on, so that I can get my 3/8 hose made and my 1/4 inch out to the marker. So yeah, I'd like to make more hoses, but I also don't want to burn up all of Dad's stuff, because getting hydraulic hose is been kind of hard here recently. But I got to do something, because I got a bunch of slack and everything, because we shortened the whole planter up. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And then there's a bunch of hoses that were just too damn long to begin. Like these guys, these have been remade, because I can tell the original hoses on here because the crimps are different. But like a bunch of the hoses that have been remade were just remade too damn long to begin with, so you got a bunch of slack and crap, and it just, loose hoses and everything are just, they make my OCD go nuts. Hoses that aren't routed very well, just yeah. And then that whole mess of crap in the center just drives me up the fucking wall. So anyway, I'm gonna mount up my red ball bracket real quick, and then once I get that done, and then I get my tank moved over, that will let us start running hose from the squeeze pump to the coulters, so we can start running fertilizer hose today too. So we'll see where we end up. All right, not gonna lie, that looks pretty slick, and that color contrast, you should be able to, you might not, well, I mean, I'm nearsighted as a bat, but I don't wear my glasses except when I'm driving, so I probably won't be able to read those letters from the tractor seat, but you ought to be able to see if everything's moving from the tractor seat. Well, let's just look. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but I can kind of make out that there's letters there. I just can't read them, but I could definitely see the balls, so that's the important part. Now, before these things can go on the planter, we gotta divorce them from their tanks. I was really hoping these tanks were going to be in decent shape, because it was going to make life so easy to just go get them off the planter and be done with it. They're junk. The planter I got these things off of, it had a very, very rough life. The frame's been broke and welded multiple times, and it just, the poor girl was rough, like with multiple F's, like R-U-F-F-F-F-F-F rough. Apparently somebody around here fancies themselves quite the magician, because I just saw somebody, don't know exactly who it was, heading that way with a John Deere 9RX pulling a tittle plow. I don't know where they're thinking they're going to work ground today, but it ain't going to be around here. At least I wouldn't try it, because it's way too wet. There's still water standing everywhere. We'd need a salad. I'd like to see at least 5 days of dry weather before I stuck a tool in the ground. And even then, you'd have to pick the dry fields. I wouldn't be trying to work anything that lays wet. But I think guys are starting to get antsy, because there hadn't been anything going on around here. And I mean nothing. Well, I'll take that back. There are some guys have tried spreading fertilizer, but they are the minority. Okay. I don't remember how far apart I spaced them on the other side. Basically, right inside the tongue. In the hole. And then the kicker of this whole thing is today we're supposed to get up to 80 degrees. Tomorrow we're supposed to be in the mid-70s. And then all week it's supposed to be back down in the 50s in like shitty weather. Like, make up your mind. Alright, tank brackets are on. I got the tank shuffled around. I'll have to pull them back off before I mount them, because I'm going to cut some rubber to lay in the bottom of, or lay in the saddles, so they're sitting on rubber, not steel. And then I drug my marker arm hoses out. This center section's a mess, I tell you what. But I got the marker arm hoses are drug out over to the valve. I pulled out, this is the wiring harness for the lights, the hazard lights and stuff. I just pulled that out up to here and tied it off for now because that harness is it's in rough shape. So we'll fix it eventually, but we got bigger fish to fry, so I just got it out of the way. And as you can tell, it's windy as hell right now. And I was like, man, why would I torture myself trying to weld on hose clamps and stuff to try to make this nice and neat when I can just bolt them on? So I cut some angle iron and made up these little guys, and they'll just go there all nice and pretty like that. No muss, no fuss, no welding. Just pop a couple holes and, well, just pop a hole and you're good to go. And then because we got to switch from 3/8 to quarter roundabout in this area, actually I'm gonna do it in this area because on this side, or on the other side, this is where the shuttle valve is, so the hoses from here will be about the same length as the hoses over there for the 1/4 inchers. Rather than just having a joint with the hoses out in the middle of nowhere hanging willy-nilly, I made a bracket for some bulkhead fittings, and that guy's gonna go right there. That way we got a hard spot to tie into, so there won't be a hose clamp here. There'll be 1/4 inch hose clamps there and 3/8 on that one and those two guys over there. So got to get me a drill and a center punch, and we're gonna pop a couple holes and mount these guys, and then we can get our hoses kind of routed. Oh, the other thing I did, because the hoses have to, because of the way this thing folds and unfolds, in order to have slack, the hoses have to come up here and make this bender on the pin and then go back to the frame. They had all the hoses crammed, I mean crammed, in these hose holders. So in order to make enough room, I'm gonna bypass that for the marker arm hoses, and there was enough room to put this here hose clamp right here, so you just loop your hoses through that hose clamp. And I'm probably going to put the wires for the seed sensors through here. Just try to get some shit out of this bundle so that it's a little neater and easier to work on at a later date when, you know, stuff happens. So go get me some tools and we'll mount some hose brackets. Gonna mark one hole on that, and then we'll drill a hole and mount it and drill the other one. Apparently when Dad left, he took the drill too, because it's not in there. You don't realize how much you appreciate cordless tools until you ain't got them, and it's like, this sucks. Okay, clamps are all mounted. And I got the hoses drugged back through, and the easiest thing to do, because we're going off of not knowing exactly what length they're supposed to be, just pull them through the clamps wherever they need to be, and put your fittings there and put a mark, and that's pretty much where you're at. So now I can drag them back through. And then I'll measure them off, or take them off one at a time and measure them, because I got them marked. I marked them before I took them off the cylinders on the marker arm, so I know what goes to the top, so that way we don't lose it. And then I routed it through the clamps so that top, our hose going to the top of the cylinder is the top hose in the clamp. So once you get to there, you know what you got. So I'm gonna pop that off and measure it. Well, I'll pop both those off and measure them and make them, and we'll put them back in and go on out to the marker. All right, so the markers are all plumbed up. That turned out pretty good. It's a lot nicer having everything, you know, got a spot for it to be tied back, and it's not just all laying loosey-goosey on the frame and, you know, making a mess. I'm gonna redo these hoses on both sides for the wing lift wheels, but we're out of 3/8 clamps. At least that I can find, so I'm gonna have to wait till Dad gets back and see if he can get more, or if he's got some hid somewhere around here I don't know about. Anyway, so that being said, we're gonna switch gears here a little bit since we're working on the toolbar, and start pull all the seed tube sensors off and get them untangled and restring them in a more fashionable manner. I got tape on them, and I got each one numbered to the row it goes to, so that we can put them right back the way they belong. Also, apparently the heat or the sun warmed up the hydraulic oil enough that it opened that cylinder up and unlocked the frame. Not a problem when you're hooked onto the tractor and the oil's got a place to go, but just sitting here with the hoses, the check balls and the hoses shut, oil ain't got nowhere to go, so apparently that's where it expands, is right there. Okay, we're all unplugged, so I'm gonna yank them all out the front and see what kind of mess we got. Alright, I got them all drug out, and then I sorted them out to fit, because you should, obviously, your junction is in the center of the planter, so you should have 4 equal length sets of wires. You got 2 that go out to the very ends, and then in and in and in and in, so on. So I wanted to make sure that they actually had the right wires going to the right units, because it didn't make any sense why this side didn't have any of the extensions and that side did, because all the wires should be equal lengths and yada yada yada. So they had them right, so I don't know why it was the way it was, but it was the way it was, so whatever. And then this is for the speed sensor down on this transmission over here. So, but these two go to 1 and 8. Those 2 go to 4 and 5. Those 2 go to 3 and 6, and then 2 and 7. So they're right. But what I think I'm gonna do, we'll get them run where they're supposed to go, and then I think I'm gonna put hose clamps, ring clamps on the bolts on these hose clamps, and run them through the ring clamp so that they're, again, back up off the toolbar and not all tangled up in the mess of crap. There. That's a lot nicer. Everything's all untangled. It's all separate from all the hydraulic hoses. You can actually pick it out of the pile. There's slack for everything. It's just, that's just, why didn't they do it that way to begin with? I'd really like to put the air manifolds back on, but I can't really do that yet because I need the room to get in there and unhook hoses. So that's gonna have to wait. So once the manifold's back on, the meters can go back on. That's all I'm waiting on to put the meters on. So yep, I think there's a couple hoses up here. I'm gonna redo all the ones up front going to the tractor, but the ones that are on here are all too long, so I want to hook on the tractor when I go to redo them. That way I can get lengths, or a better idea of lengths. This hose needs done. I thought I saw dry cracks in it. Maybe not. Thought I saw dry cracks in that one. Because that one's with these, the hoses with this style crimp, those are original to the planter. Yeah, I'll just redo it because I'm gonna, these are marker hoses. I'm gonna redo that one, and then this guy's got to get redone so it goes back up over top of the frame, because this is the one I had to loop underneath to make room to get the tank on. So I got to turn this fitting, and the hose, ow, that hurt. The hose is gonna have to have a 90 in it to come up and come over the frame and then back down. So get those done real quick. Those are, these quarter, those are all 3. Those are all 3/8, so that's what we're set up to do. That makes it easy. All right, those 3 are done. I was able to shorten this guy that goes up to the top of the shutoff valve. I shortened him probably close to 5 inches. I don't know why they had it so long. Because when the frame folds, this collapses up against the tongue, so it's not like you needed the length because it gets long. I don't know. But I shortened that. They had both of these hoses, they had an adapter to convert a male JIC to a female a female JIC to male JIC, so that they could put, either way, they had adapters here, and then they had two 90-degree adapters here. So I got rid of this 90 and the adapter and put a 90 on the hose. And then since I couldn't do that here, so I got rid of the straight port or O-ring boss to JIC port adapter they had in there and put in a 90-degree O-ring boss to JIC port adapter, and then put a 90 on the hose here and a straight there, because if at all possible you want to try to avoid having two not straight hose ends on the same hose, because then you got to try to keep them clocked so you're not fighting the hose getting it out and anything. So that way I could keep a straight on that end and a 90 on this end. So I got rid of a bunch of shit, shortened some hoses, cleaned that all up, started untangling this wiring harness, but they got it like wrapped around. They did a wrap around this hose right here, which in all honesty, that one probably needs replaced because that's a jacket. Now those are halves. Those bastards go all the way up, around, and into the valve block. That's what those guys are. Right? Or are these for the pump? Those are, what are those? Those are these. Nope, yep, those are the fold unfold up down hoses. So those go, yep, they go from here all the way around back to there. That's fun. Anyway, so with that being said, really all I got left is 8 hoses to make. I got the 2 that go to either main lift wheel, which there's actually nothing wrong with the hoses that go in them other than they're too damn long now and they got everything in a bind, and the way they're all scrunched up, I can't unscrunch them enough to get to easily get the air manifold through there, so we're gonna have to redo those, shorten them up. So there's 2 there, and then the 2 that run out to the drive wheels, which I got to get more hose clamps so that I know how to route those and what to make them for length. And Dad's gonna look at that on Monday, get more of those. And then I have to, and then once those are done, we can shorten the air manifold, stuff the air manifold back on. Once the manifold's back in, the meters can go back on. And then all I got left after that is all of the hoses for the fertilizer, which ain't gonna take nothing at all because it's cut and it's just cut and push on and tighten the hose clamp, so that'll go real fast. I wish I was hoping to be able to get to that today, but that wiring harness and those hoses for that marker arm turned into more of a project than I thought they would. So all I got is the 8 hoses to come out of the manifold on the squeeze pump into the flow meters, then out of the flow meters down to the coulters, and then the main trunk down that's going to tie the tanks together. So that won't take long at all. And then making those hoses up front that we'll do when we get it on the tractor. And then it'll be ready to plant after that, as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna do these cylinders tomorrow while it's raining. Tomorrow we've got chances of hail and thunderstorms, dandy. So I'm gonna get cylinders rebuilt tomorrow, And I mean, if I had a good solid day on it and all the parts to do it. Oh, and I gotta finish putting the chains and bearings on that jack shaft. I gotta do that, but that's 15 minutes worth of work. If I had a solid day on it with all the parts, it would be done right now. I'm just still waiting on parts. So, such is life. But anyway, I'm about spent for the day, and it sounds like dinner's on the stove at home, so I'm gonna get this video put together and clean my mess up and call her a night. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys all on the next one.